Welcome to this sacred space. My name is Adris Harrell, and on behalf of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome you to our worship service, both here in the sanctuary and online. Our children are also joining us for the first part of the service. If you are a guest, please join us in the parish hall after the service for conversation. Know that you are welcome no matter whom you love, how you identify, or how you see the divine. Today we welcome Tomas Sargent, a member of our youth group who has become a worship associate. He will be assisting us in leading the service. We are also pleased that Matt Meyer, a UU musician and director of community life for the Sanctuary Boston, will be leading us in music this morning. And at 1 o'clock, he will lead a workshop entitled Songleading for Justice. Matt's children's book, Desmond Gets Free, recently won a Nautilus Award for social justice in children's literature, and it will be available for sale after worship. Our service today will be focused on hope for ourselves and for the world. And now let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round, attend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round, attend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. What a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Larry Piers, minister here at First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. We are a warm congregation. It may feel cold in this room, but we are a warm congregation, so let's radiate the heat that's within us into this room so that by the end of the service, who knows what will be happening. So glad to have Matt joining us today. Matt, I've lost count on how many years it was ago in Boston where I was coordinating a conference and you were a musician. 53. 53. Yes, I was a mere child. Yeah. Our children have joined us today, and who remembers the last time when the children were here and we made connections through the yarn that we passed around? Who remembers that? Okay, so today we have no yarn. However, every time in the call to worship that I say a word that has connect in it, like connectedness or connection, I want you to make a movement like this. Let's rehearse it. Okay? You ready? Pay attention. Okay. We never know how our small activities will affect others through the invisible fabric of our connectedness. In this exquisitely connected world, it's never a question of critical mass. It's always about critical connections. As we gather this morning for worship, let us take a moment to attend to the critical connections that compose our lives, and let us open ourselves to the possibility of ongoing, nurturing connections. Come, let us worship together.
It's all right. For those of you at home, if you have a chalice, I invite you to join me by lighting it. As we gather together this morning, being both near and far, we light our chalice as we do each week. It is a symbol of our faith. May its light be a beacon of hope for the many, for those who feel lost, those who feel threat, those who feel tired, and those who feel uncertain. May our beacon of hope help you find home, help you feel safe, give you respite, and honor your searching mind and spirit.
Our next hymn this morning is going to be 3 songs, and we're going to try them all at the same time. I hope you're feeling ambitious. Some of them you probably already know. The first one goes like this. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Next one like this. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, how I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. The third one was newer to me, at least. It goes like this. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance, dance, dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When those gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. Let's try that one. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance, dance, dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When those gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. Great, please rise in body or spirit. We're gonna start with that one, then we'll add Swing Low, and then we'll add Oh When the Saints. Here's how this works. You can pick your favorite and just hold on tight. You can switch back and forth between them if that's what you want to do, or if you know another song that works well with these, you just go ahead and throw it right in, all right? Glad you like that. For all of our singing this morning, there's going to be a lot of it. I invite you to participate, though, in whatever way your spirit needs. If the words elude you and you just want to hum along, that's okay. That's just as good. If what you need this morning is to just sit in silence, to take a deep breath and soak in the sound of the room, that's okay too. That's just as good. And if what you need this morning is to rock out like you're alone in the car with your radio, this is your morning to do it. All 3 of these songs come out of an African-American tradition of resilience, a musical tradition that looked the most dire of circumstances in the face and sang about a better world to come anyway. To sang about a world to come perhaps in the next life, or perhaps a better place that we can build here in this lifetime. And so let's sing in that spirit of imagining better times and working to make them real, even when things around us are overwhelming. Here we go. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance, dance, dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When those gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance, hallelujah. Keep going. Swing low, sweet chariot. Coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot. Coming for to carry me home. Any of the three, oh, when the saints go marching in, how I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching. Sounds good, a little louder. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. Oh, I'm gonna dance, dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When the gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance, very dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. When those gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. Hallelujah. Let's add some more rhythm. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna dance. When the saints are marching, hallelujah. When those gates are open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance, hallelujah. One more. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance, hallelujah, hallelujah. When those gates open wide, I'll be standing by your side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance, hallelujah. Oh, you sound good. Let's take a deep breath together.
Please join me in affirming our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
So today's service is a little bit about imagining a better world and working to make it real. It's about believing in ourselves and trusting in our community to move forward, even when the future is unknown. And so I have just the story for you. Desmond the mouse lived in the most beautiful meadow in all the land. Every morning, Desmond would wake with the sunrise and spend the whole day playing in that meadow. And every evening, Desmond would go to sleep right in the middle of the meadow under the beautiful starry sky above. One night, though, Desmond woke to find that it was still dark out. So he tried to roll over and get more comfortable and go back to sleep, but something wasn't right. He could hardly move, and his tail was throbbing with pain. Reaching behind him, he felt that there was it felt like some sort of huge boulder had fallen just on his tail in the middle of the meadow. He tried pushing on this giant rock behind him with all of his strength. And when it didn't budge, he tried tugging on his tail, tugging to get loose with all of his might. And he tried pushing and tugging and pushing over and over and over again, till finally he was exhausted and out of breath and had just about given up when he saw another animal pass by through the meadow. It was a tall giraffe. Good news, he thought. "Oh, giraffe," he called out, "it seems that some sort of boulder has fallen just on my tail in the middle of the meadow. If you could use your powerful legs to nudge it, well, even just a few inches in the other direction, I could get free." Well, the giraffe laughed at Desmond the way giraffes do. "You silly mouse," he said. "That's no boulder that's fallen on your tail in the middle of the meadow. That is an elephant that's fallen asleep on your tail in the middle of the meadow." Well, good news, thought Desmond. I mean, in that case, if you could just gently wake him and ask him to roll over even just a few inches in the other direction, I could get free. I don't know about that, said the giraffe. I mean, well, surely you know what they say about letting sleeping elephants lie. I find it's best not to get involved in other animals' business. I find it's best to remain neutral in times such as these. Well, Desmond sighed, I do not appreciate your neutrality. The giraffe wandered off, leaving Desmond alone again, and so he tried shouting as loud as he could to wake the elephant. But those giant elephant ears at the way other end of that giant elephant body, they were just too far away, and his little mouse voice was just too quiet. So then he tried pushing again with all of his strength. And when the elephant didn't budge, he tried tugging on his tail again, tugging with all of his might to get loose. And then he tried shouting and pushing and tugging and pushing and shouting over and over and over again, till at last he was exhausted and out of breath and had just about given up when he saw another animal pass by through the meadow. This time, it was a gazelle. And he called out, "Oh, gazelle, it seems that an elephant has fallen asleep just on my tail in the middle of the meadow. If you could just gently wake him up and ask him to roll over even just a few inches in the other direction, I could get free." "I don't know about that," said the gazelle. "I mean, surely you must know what they say about letting sleeping elephants lie. I find it's best not to get involved in other animals' business. I find it's best to remain neutral in times such as these." Well, the gazelle wandered off, and Desmond said almost to himself this time, "I do not appreciate your neutrality." One last time, Desmond tried shouting with all of his voice, pushing with all of his strength, and tugging with all of his might. And he tried shouting and pushing and tugging and pushing and shouting over and over again until he was exhausted and out of breath and had given up for just about the last time when he saw another animal pass by. And this time it was another mouse. And this time when he called out, that mouse ran right over and introduced himself. He said, "My name is Nelson. What seems to be the problem?" Well, no sooner had Desmond explained the situation than Nelson ran all the way to the other end of that giant elephant body, and he shouted up to those giant elephant ears at the top of that giant elephant head. He said, "Excuse me. It seems you've fallen asleep on my friend's tail in the middle of the meadow. If you could roll over just a few inches in the other direction, he could go free." Well, the elephant heard Nelson's little mouse voice way down on the ground. But those big elephant ears at the top of that giant elephant head, they were just a bit too far away. And Nelson's little mouse voice was just a bit too quiet. And between you and me, well, I think that elephant was just a bit too comfortable. He didn't budge. So Nelson thought for a moment before he had an idea, and he ran all the way back to Desmond, and he said, "I think I've got an idea. Stay right here. Don't move." And he ran off into the grass, leaving a confused look on Desmond's face. And just when Desmond was starting to get worried again, he saw Nelson emerge back through the grass. But this time, he wasn't alone. He had found 3 other mouse friends. And each of them, they had each done their job. They had each found another 3 friends as well. And the whole group of them ran all the way to the other end of that giant elephant body. And one mouse, she climbed up on the shoulders of another, and another climbed up on her shoulders. And one by one, they made a whole mouse ladder all the way up the back of that giant elephant head. And then Nelson climbed up the shoulders of his friends carefully, one by one, till he stood right at the opening of that giant elephant ear. And he shouted with all of his little mouse voice, "Excuse me. It seems you've fallen asleep on my friend's tail in the middle of the meadow. Roll over just a few inches so he can go free." Well, this time his voice was just too close and just too loud to ignore, and so the elephant said, "Mm." But then he rolled over
just a few inches in the other direction. Nelson and his friends climbed back down carefully, and then they met up with Desmond, who was free at last, and the whole group of them spent the rest of that day playing together in the meadow. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, before he passed away just 2 years ago, had said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you've already taken sides. You've taken sides with the powerful and with the oppressor. And he said, if an elephant is standing on the tail of a mouse, well, the mouse will never appreciate your neutrality. Archbishop Tutu believed in a God who he said took sides, a God who took sides with the orphan and the widow and the oppressed everywhere. And as Unitarian Universalists, we may or may not share a belief in that same God of Tutu, but we have covenanted to build a world of justice and equity and compassion, and that means imagining and working for a world very different than the one we see around us today. So it means that we come together to do together what we could not do alone, and to take sides for justice and for equity, to take sides for compassion. And it means that we come together to side with love. May it be so, dear ones, and may we make it so.
Now we're going to sing our children out, and if the children will please walk to the back and wait for me before they go through the doors. Thank you.
Now it is? Okay, great. So as we begin this time of prayerful meditation, I need to announce the passing away of two of our members. Some of you may have heard this already, and for some of you, you may be hearing this for the first time. So Barbara Perry, may the light that was her life continue to shine and radiate among all those who loved and knew her. May those who are impacted by this loss be surrounded by our love and our compassion. And Eric Kuhn, may the light that was Eric continue to shine and radiate in the memories of those who knew him. May those who care about him feel our loving support and compassion surrounding them during this time of loss. So let us bring to mind and heart now all of those. Can you all hear me?
No, the mic's not on.
Should I use the other mic? First, let's surround with love and compassion those in our AV booth this morning who are doing the best they can. And let's also surround and love John Claney, who usually is up there, but who is recovering from knee surgery this week and so is not there. So let's take a moment to think about all of those that we are carrying in our own hearts and spirits this day. Those who we love, including ourselves, and for whatever concerns there may be in the wider world that are weighing on our own hearts in this time together. So let's pause for a moment and hold whatever arises as a concern in our heart together. And in a moment, I'll ask you to speak those concerns or write those concerns in our chat. So, what concerns do you have this morning? Who are you holding in your own heart that you want to speak aloud in this room or write in the chat? You need not hold these concerns alone, but may you feel the connection that is present in this room and the connection with a greater love that surrounds us all as we sing together our meditation, song for meditation, There Is a Love.
There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all we rest in. This love. Let's sing one more time. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all we rest in. This love we rest. We rest in this love.
So will the mic work? Maybe not.
Seven not working? Seven's not working.
It's not working. Wow, what a dramatic beginning. Maybe I'll have dramatic conclusion as well. Stay tuned. Unexpectedly, I was recently drawn into a series on Netflix entitled World War II from the Front Lines. If you know about this series, you know that it incorporates actual archival footage from all sides of the conflict. Germans and English, Japanese and Americans, Russians and Polish, even voices from contemporary survivors on all sides. The archival footage was vividly enhanced, as they said, which meant it was in living color, as we used to say. Now, I don't typically like to watch war movies, or definitely not like to see real footage of war casualties. And if the truth be known, I do my own self-editing along the way. However, watching this enhanced archival footage made the events dramatically real. Anyone else see any of these? Yeah. Hearing from people on all sides of the conflict made it more than a distant story from the past. Made it not just past history, it became a series of real life stories of people caught up in tragic historical circumstances. As I sat through the whole series, I knew that I wasn't just watching. I was bearing witness to something significant. All of those in a generation before me, especially my mother, who was a young girl in Italy during World War II, could not be mere spectators. And I got a better sense of what it is they were immersed in those many years ago. Bearing witness is hard, but sometimes it is a necessary human task. The Zen teacher, Bernie Glassman, purposely decided, for example, to meditate on the Holocaust at Auschwitz. He reflected on the practice of bearing witness when he wrote, "Zen is a practice that pushes us to realize what is." And he continues, "To me, Zazen is a form of bearing witness to life. As human beings, each one of us," he says, "is denying something. There are certain aspects of life we do not want to deal with, usually because we are afraid of them. Sometimes it is society itself that is in denial." By bearing witness, we are often moving beyond what is convenient or comfortable in order to be in deeper contact with our common humanity. Zoning out, tuning out, or avoiding are contradictory to bearing witness, especially in times in which something is wanting to be called forth from us in the here and now. As we dare to gather together on Sundays as a congregation, we are engaging in the personal and collective practice of bearing witness to what is happening in our lives and in the world around us, even when every fiber of our being would rather avoid or deny or not give much attention to the stirrings in our own heart, the uncertainties of our own life, or those we care about, or even when we don't really want to attend to the craziness in our current world. Do you know what I mean by that? Sure we do, Larry. There is something that beckons us to be present to one another and to be deeply present to life itself as it is unfolding. To bear witness to the whole of life, for me, means to be human religiously. That phrase, to be human religiously, arose in the writings of the Unitarian Universalist theologian and social ethicist James Luther Adams. I knew Adams when he was in his late 80s, when I lived in Boston. Although he seemed feeble through age, I knew that there was a strength within him that went deeper than his appearance during the decade or so that I knew him. When I would see him at church or divinity school gatherings or at a discussion group that we both participated in, I knew he was a big soul. I knew he had a story to tell. You see, Adams had an actual engagement with some of those events leading up to World War II. He wrote of these events that he encountered on a research trip to Germany, and the story is best told in his words, so I'm going to use his words to tell it. In the summer of 1927, 6 years after Hitler became head of the movement and 6 years before the party came into power, I visited Nuremberg just at the time when thousands of people, young and old, were in the city for the annual Nazi festival. On the day of the great parade in the streets of Nuremberg, history, as it was being made at that juncture, gave me a traumatic jolt. Standing in the jostling crowd and watching the thousands singing Nazis with their innumerable brass bands as they passed along the street, I inadvertently got into a conversation with some people who turned out to be Nazi sympathizers. Out of curiosity as to what they would say, I asked a bystander, what's the meaning of the swastika that was everywhere evident? And within a few minutes, I found myself in a heated discussion with more and more people joining in, particularly when the discussion turned to the Jewish question. As I bore down in the argument against these defenders of Nazism, asking more and more insistent questions, I was suddenly seized by the elbows from behind and pulled vehemently out of the crowd. No one made an effort to help me. I immediately thought I was being taken into custody. I could not see who it was. After extricating me from the crowd and marched me vigorously down a side street and then turned up into an alley. And on reaching the dead end of the alley, my host, a young German working man in his 30s, wheeled me around and shouted, "Don't you know that when you watch a parade in Germany today, you either keep your mouth shut or you get your head bashed in?" My palpitation mounted even higher at this moment, and I was all the more puzzled when my captor smiled and said, "Don't be frightened. I've come here to save you." This man was an unemployed worker and an anti-Nazi. He immediately invited me to take dinner with him at his home, and I accepted gladly. This direct experience with the forces of fascism shook Adams up enough to ask the question of himself upon his return to the United States. He wondered out loud, if fascism should arise in the States, what in your past performance would constitute a pattern or framework of resistance? I could only give a feeble answer to the question. He said, my principal political activities had been the reading of the newspaper and voting. I had preached sermons on the Depression or in defense of strikers, but I had no adequate conception of citizen participation. While studying with those who were part of the resistance in Germany, he continued, repeatedly I heard anti-Nazis saying, if only 1,000 of us in the late 20s had combined in heroic resistance, we could have stopped Hitler. My friends, we are living in a time when events are unfolding around us in the political and the social world that tempt us to retreat, withdraw, or merely complain, right? We hardly know what a framework of resistance would look like. And yet, can we really afford to wait until it unfolds before we say or do anything? To be attentive when so many forces around us and within us may want to lure us or lull us into a sense of relinquishment or sell us into a sense of inevitability about our social and political world means to bear witness in the here and now, not when it's all too late. It's hard to process all that is occurring while it is happening. The feelings of anxiety and overwhelm may tempt us to want to escape, to deny, or even to fast forward to November 2024. We may be tempted to hit the snooze button 1,000 times between now and then, yet we need to stay awakened. You see, it's not just about us. It is about the generation before us that have entrusted us with a legacy that falls into our hands to defend and to cultivate and to nurture. It's not just about us. It is about the generations that follow us, that need us to show up, to be awakened, and to be able to respond, to be responsible to what is unfolding while it is unfolding. When James Luther Adams reflected on his experiences during that time right before the Nazis took over, he called his experience a conversion experience. He dedicated himself then and there to an understanding of church as, and I quote, being oriented to God and called by God to act prophetically in the world. He believed that the church as a voluntary association defines and nurtures our inner lives as well as our public lives as an agent for collective action in the world. He dedicated his life and his teaching to awakening that prophetic call in others and to nurturing the inner life that can sustain any one of us. The impact of watching that documentary series on World War II, of bearing witness to what the generation before me had endured, moved me to gasps and tears of disbelief. It also led me unexpectedly to hope. Yes, strangely enough, I also felt hope that somehow or another, in the midst of such downright atrocities, we did emerge again as a humanity, ready to make sense of life again. It reminded me of the reflections of another person who actually experienced the events of World War II when he left his neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, and his Jewish family behind to serve in the army during this war. On reflecting back on the horrors of this experience, Ira Progoff wrote, "How precariously close civilization had come to destroying itself." He reflected particularly on the book bannings and burnings by the Nazis. In a dream, he felt that these book burnings could have contained all the sacred scriptures and books of wisdom and be destroyed. And as a result of his direct experiences and his dream, he came to realize that what he called the enduring strength of the vast and self-replenishing resources of the human spirit. Let's take that in. Let's take a sip of that for a moment. The enduring strength of the vast and self-replenishing resources of the human spirit. Ira Progoff became a psychotherapist and developed an understanding of what he calls the dynamics of hope. And in this book, he explores the dynamic interaction between hope and anxiety. Even though the book was written some decades ago now, I believe it has some relevance for us even now. He explores the dynamic of anxiety and hope. He says, at the beginning, there is the movement downward from hope to anxiety. And then there is that time in between, that time of waiting. This is the time in the valley when there seems to be no movement at all taking place, at least none on the outer level that can be seen. And there is that movement upward from the valley of anxiety to another possibility. Progoff sees anxiety as that which can serve to lead us to that next development of courage or expanded consciousness. Since the changes in the person, he writes, involve enlargements in awareness in the person's capacity for absorbing and responding to the events of life, it is necessary to move both phases of the cycle in order to experience the full process. If the impact of the cycle is softened when we get to that place of anxiety by a mollifying treatment, the pain of the anxiety will be avoided, and also will the experience of deepening, personal deepening and strengthening with its consequent growth of consciousness. Now, it must be hard for us to appreciate this dynamic. It may be hard to see how entering anxieties, acknowledging them, could actually serve us or serve our unfoldment towards hope. Such a perspective runs so counter to our contemporary society that may lure us to wanting to sing, "Don't worry, be happy," on a continuous loop. Now, a more contemporary psychologist, Tracy Dennis Taiwari, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, in her book, and this title, I just sure it's not going to allow the titles to like fly off the shelf, but let me give you her title, and then you can kind of get a sense of what she's trying to propose. The title of her book is Future Tense: Why Anxiety is Good for You, Even Though It Feels Bad. Usually during my sermons, people start ordering books on Amazon on their smartphones. I didn't see anybody order that one. But she writes, anxiety is telling us that we care about the future and want it to turn out a certain way. In fact, feeling anxious actually releases dopamine, which motivates us to pursue rewards and take action to bring about the future that we want. She makes the proposition that the emotion of anxiety is not broken. It's how we cope with anxiety that is broken. Now, of course, there's much more that we could say about this broader topic. It's a more nuanced topic that I have time to go into here. But suffice it to say that as a congregation, we can hold each other during these times that we are in. Even when we have to admit our anxieties about our world to one another. These anxieties and our this worldly oriented approach to religion may actually help us to hone our own gathering of hope together. We need holding places. We need places such as a congregation that are not merely spiritual escapes, but are portals to the embodied hope that wants to arise within us and among us. We need to keep each other company. We need to be a place that holds a sacred center in which we can speak the truth of our times, even when it brings anxieties, since we know that we can venture to feel deeply and care deeply in each other's presence. Do you hear what I'm saying? The words of our theme song for this month declare it. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We have fires to tend, my friends, in the times in which we are living. Perhaps we may tolerate more than we should in our contemporary world because we may feel alone or imagine ourselves to be outnumbered in the midst of the forces that benefit from non-truth, or that benefit from the tactics of authoritarianism, or from the advocacy for the benefits, for withholding benefits to the common good, or common human rights to those who are historically marginalized. But I say, it is time now. It is time now. We know that our future leaders need to have a deep maturity if they are to lead us through the times that we are in and towards the changes that are beckoning us. We need not succumb to despair or relinquish our sense of hope out of a sense of inevitability. It is time now. It is time now. As I look at what this congregation does each week to face the world that we are actually in, of what this congregation does to be a prophetic voice even in the midst of uncertainty and chaos, I underline that it is time now. It is time now that we thrive. On a recent Wednesday evening, this church was buzzing with activities. There was a meditation group, a book discussion group, an earth-based spirituality celebration, and I knew this was only a sample of the ways that we open our doors to the wider community and to ourselves, to, as James Luther Adams, to define and nurture our inner lives as well as our public lives as an agent for collective action in the world. This congregation has become a source of hope, as we know, for young adults who are moving out of foster care. And they have a sense of a tangible sense of hope because how we accompany them and support them during that transition. This congregation has become a source of hope for a family seeking asylum in a world that seems strange and unfamiliar and somewhat scary to them. Even as we gather here this morning, our children are being oriented and nurtured in ways of being in the world and relating to one another that will allow them to cultivate their spiritual lives in the context of a community. Even as we gather here this morning, some of us will gather this afternoon in a workshop to sing songs that strengthen our spirits for the days and the struggles that lie ahead. It is time now that we thrive. And of course, in order to thrive as a congregation in the times that we live and into the future, we need to keep developing our inner personal and spiritual and collective resources so we have the strengths to withstand the work ahead of us. And of course, to thrive as a congregation, we need to devote ourselves to giving of our financial resources to our annual pledge drive to sustain what is, to build upon what we know in our hearts and our spirits wants to continue to happen here. We need to pave the way for emerging leaders among us to take up the song and inherit a solid and solvent legacy from us. Do you hear what I'm saying? It is time now that we thrive. Joanna Macy talks about the time that we're in as part of a great turning. She encourages us to an act of hope Active hope is a practice, she writes. It's something that we do rather than something that we have. It's a process we can apply to any situation, and it involves 3 key steps. This will be in the exam. First, we take a clear view of reality. That's sometimes very hard to do. Second, we identify what we hope for in terms of the direction we'd like to see expressed. That's sometimes even harder to do. And third, we take steps to move ourselves in our situation in that direction. Sometimes we need a little push and a little encouragement to move in that direction. Active hope isn't about optimism. It's not about weighing our chances and proceeding only when we feel hopeful. Instead, we focus on our deepest hopes and intentions, and we let those be our guide. Now, future generations will look back on us and recognize that somewhere along the way, we looked at each other in 2024, and in spite of our fears, in spite of our anxieties, in spite of our uncertainties, we said, it is time now, and what a time it is to be alive. Say that after me. It is time now, and what a time it is to be alive. And now that we've said it, let's sing it.
It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. What a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
We shall be known by the company we keep. Will you sing with me?
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. What a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit. We'll sing it one more time through, like you mean it this time.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Amen.
All right, which mic am I using? Can you hear me? Is it on? How about this one? Pick a mic. Need a mic. Is that it? All right, do you guys hear me now? Okay. Do you hear me now? Okay. What does a thriving church look like to you? I'm going to pause to let you envision a thriving church. What did that thriving church look like in your mind? Lots of children and families, many social justice activities, fun events on weekends, abundant opportunities for connection with others. Now, how did First U compare to your vision of a thriving church? In the words of every child in the backseat of a car, are we there yet? If the answer is yes, how do we sustain that? How do we keep our staff? How do we keep the lights on when expenses go up? If your vision was different from where we are now, then how do we lift up the church? Thriving is not a passive verb. When we look at people or organizations that are thriving, they are active, they are doing. Although circumstances have a big impact on whether someone can easily thrive, it is the person who takes action to thrive. It doesn't just happen to them. It's the same way with churches. The people in the church need to commit their financial and time resources to make the church a thriving place. So today is the kickoff of our pledge drive, with the theme being, it is time now to thrive. In the next few weeks, we will be asking you to make a monetary pledge so first you can plan the budget for next year. Increasing our pledges to increase our budget is one of the ways that we can ensure that first you will thrive. During our fellowship time in the parish hall, you will see a table where you may pick up a pledge card and or make a pledge. We now have the immediate opportunity to show our generosity to our church with an offertory. During the music, there will be directions for multiple ways to send a financial donation to the church, including via text. So it won't be considered rude if you whip out your phone now. After the service, you can also contribute your donation with paper, check, or cash into the baskets at the back of the sanctuary. So please join me now in dedicating our offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
Help me, Lord. Help me, Lord.
Help me, Lord. Help me, Lord.
Help me find the common ground.
Find the common ground. Yes, the common ground.
Between the high and the low.
High and low.
Between the poor and the rich.
Poor and rich.
Between the old and the young.
Old and young.
Between the black,
Black.
and the white.
And the white. Help me find the common ground.
Find the
Common ground. Yes, the common ground.
between the shouting,
Shouting.
and the silence, between the bound and the free,
Those at home and in the sanctuary should now extinguish their chalices. When the candle dims, the wax almost spent, the light turns amber like a sunset. Still provides heat, still provides warmth. Still it can still kindle a new flame and pass its glow on. And pass its glow on and contribute to new illumination. When sunset turns to new days, when seasons transform all, when the candle dims, all is not lost. Hope continues, uncertain and true, like candlelight ready to spark again. All is not lost.
Thank you, Tomas. These words for our benediction come from Rebecca Solnit. We have, before we hear the benediction, make sure you say hello to anyone you know or don't know well enough, or want to know better, or whatever it might be. Join us for snacks in the parish hall following the service. And those of you who are attending the workshop will begin promptly around noon, or what time do we begin? Oh, 1 o'clock, sorry. So there's time to eat lunch and then come back and sing. Every minute of every hour of every day, you are making the world just as you are making yourself. And you might as well do it with generosity and kindness and style.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. I invite you to sing along. Here we go.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Where you go,
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Here we go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Faster. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go? Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go? Where you go? Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go? Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go? For your people. For your people are my people. Your people, they are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. For your people. For your people are mine.
Thank